Brought to you by Wikivideo Documentaries. Paul Manafort. Paul John Manafort Jr. is an American lobbyist, political consultant and lawyer. He joined Donald Trump's presidential campaign team in March 2016, and served as campaign manager from June to August 2016. He was previously an advisor to the U.S. presidential campaigns of Republicans Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and Bob Dole. In 1980, Manafort co-founded the Washington, D.C.-based lobbying firm Black, Manafort, and Stone, along with principals Charles R. Black Jr. and Roger J. Stone, joined by Peter G. Kelly in 1984. Manafort often lobbied on behalf of controversial foreign leaders such as former President of Ukraine Viktor Yanukovych, former dictator of the Philippines Ferdinand Marcos, dictator of the former Democratic Republic of the Congo Mobutu Sese Seko, and Angolan guerrilla leader Jonas Savimbi. Lobbying to serve the interests of foreign governments requires registration with the Justice Department under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. However, as of June 2, 2017, Manafort had not registered. On June 27 he retroactively registered as a foreign agent. Manafort is under investigation by multiple federal agencies. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has reportedly had an active criminal investigation on him since 2014 regarding business dealings while he was lobbying for Yanukovych. He is also a person of interest in the FBI counterintelligence probe looking into the Russian government's interference in the 2016 presidential election. On October 30, 2017, Manafort surrendered to the FBI after news broke that a federal grand jury had indicted him and his business associate Rick Gates. The charges arise from his consulting work for a pro-Russian government of Viktor Yanukovych in Ukraine. The indictment had been requested by Robert Mueller's Special Investigation Unit. The indictment charged Manafort with conspiracy against the United States, conspiracy to launder money, failure to file reports of foreign bank and financial accounts, being an unregistered agent of foreign principal, false and misleading FARA statements, and false statements. Manafort has pleaded not guilty, and is free on bail. Early life and education. Paul John Manafort Jr. was born April 1, 1949, in New Britain, Connecticut, the son of Antoinette Mary Manafort and Paul John Manafort Sr. He is of Italian descent. His grandfather, James A. Manafort, immigrated to the U.S. state of Connecticut in 1907 and founded the construction company New Britain House Wrecking Company in 1919. His father served with the U.S. Army Combat Engineers in World War II and was mayor of New Britain from 1965 to 1971. Manafort graduated from Georgetown University in 1971 with Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and from Georgetown University Law School in 1974 with a Juris Doctor degree. Political activities. In 1976, Manafort was the delegate hunt coordinator for 8 states for the President Ford Committee. The overall Ford delegate operation was run by James A. Baker III. Between 1978 and 1980, Manafort was the Southern coordinator for Ronald Reagan's presidential campaign, and the deputy political director at the Republican National Committee. After Reagan's election in November 1980, he was appointed Associate Director of the Presidential Personnel Office at the White House. In 1981 he was nominated to the Board of Directors of the Overseas Private Investment Corporation. Manafort was an advisor to the presidential campaigns of George H.W. Bush in 1988 and Bob Dole in 1996. Chairman of Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. In February 2016, Manafort approached Donald Trump through a mutual friend, Thomas J. Barrack Jr. He pointed out his experience advising presidential campaigns in the United States and around the world, described himself as an outsider not connected to the Washington establishment, and offered to work without salary. In March 2016 he joined Trump's presidential campaign to take the lead in getting commitments from convention delegates. In June 2016, Trump fired campaign manager Corey Lewandowski and promoted Manafort to the position. Manafort gained control of the daily operations of the campaign as well as an expanded $20 million budget, hiring decisions, advertising, and media strategy. On June 9, 2016, Manafort, Donald Trump Jr. and Jared Kushner were participants in a meeting with Russian attorney Natalia Veselnitskaya and several others at Trump Tower. A British music agent, saying he was acting on behalf of Emin Agalara from the Russian government, had told Trump Jr. that he could obtain damaging information on Hillary Clinton if he met with a lawyer connected to the Kremlin. At first Trump Jr. said the meeting had been about the Magnitsky Act. Later he said the offer of information about Clinton had been a pretext to conceal Veselnitskaya's real agenda. In August 2016, Manafort's connections to former Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych and his pro-Russian Party of Regions drew national attention in the U.S., where it was reported that Manafort may have illegally received $12.7 million in off-the-books funds from the Party of Regions. On August 17, 2016, Donald Trump received his first security briefing. The same day, August 17, Trump shook up his campaign organization in a way that appeared to minimize Manafort's role. It was reported that members of Trump's family, particularly Jared Kushner, who had originally been a strong backer of Manafort, had become uneasy about his Russian connections and suspected that he had not been forthright about them. Manafort stated in an internal staff memorandum that he would remain the campaign chairman and chief strategist, providing the big picture, long-range campaign vision. However, 2 days later, Trump announced his acceptance of Manafort's resignation from the campaign after Stephen Bannon and Kellyanne Conway took on senior leadership roles within that campaign. Upon Manafort's resignation as campaign chairman, Newt Gingrich stated that nobody should underestimate how much Paul Manafort did to really help get this campaign to where it is right now. Gingrich later added that, for the Trump administration, it makes perfect sense for them to distance themselves from somebody who apparently didn't tell them what he was doing. Lobbying career. In 1980, Manafort was a founding partner of Washington, D.C. based lobbying firm Black, Manafort, and Stone, along with principals Charles R. Black Jr. and Roger J. Stone. After Peter G. Kelly was recruited, the name of the firm was changed to Black, Manafort, Stone and Kelly in 1984. Manafort left BMSK in 1996 to join Richard H. Davis and Matthew C. Friedman in forming Davis, Manafort, and Friedman. Association with Jonas Savimbi. In 1985, Manafort's firm, BMSK, signed a $600,000 contract with Jonas Savimbi, the leader of the Angolan rebel group UNITA, to refurbish Savimbi's image in Washington and secure financial support on the basis of his anti-communism stance. BMSK arranged for Savimbi to attend events at the American Enterprise Institute, the Heritage Foundation, and Freedom House. In the wake of the campaign, Congress approved hundreds of millions of dollars in covert American aid to Savimbi's group. Allegedly, Manafort's continuing lobbying efforts helped preserve the flow of money to Savimbi several years after the Soviet Union ceased its involvement in the Angolan conflict, forestalling peace talks. Lobbying for other foreign leaders. Manafort's firm, BMSK, accepted $950,000 yearly to lobby for then-President of the Philippines Ferdinand Marcos. He was also involved in lobbying for Mobutu Sese Seko of Zaire, securing a $1 million annual contract in 1989, and attempted to recruit Siad Barre of Somalia as a client. His firm also lobbied on behalf of the governments of the Dominican Republic, Equatorial Guinea, Kenya, and Nigeria. These activities led Manafort's firm to be listed amongst the top 5 lobbying firms receiving money from human rights abusing regimes in the Center for Public Integrity report, The Torturers Lobby. The New York Times reported that Manafort accepted payment from the Kurdistan Regional Government to facilitate Western recognition of the 2017 Iraqi Kurdistan independence referendum. Involvement in the Karachi affair. Manafort wrote the campaign strategy for Edouard Balladur in the 1995 French elections, and was paid indirectly. The money, at least $200,000, was transferred to him through his friend, Lebanese arms dealer Abdul Rahman Al-Assa, from middlemen fees paid for arranging the sale of 3 French jets to Pakistan, in a scandal known as the Karachi affair. Association with Pakistani Inter-Service Intelligence Agency. Manafort received $700,000 from the Kashmiri American Council between 1990 and 1994, supposedly to promote the plight of the Kashmiri people. However, an FBI investigation revealed the money was actually from Pakistan's Inter-Service Intelligence Agency as part of a disinformation operation to divert attention from terrorism. A former Pakistani IC official claimed Manafort was aware of the nature of the operation while producing a documentary as part of the deal. Manafort interviewed several Indian officials while pretending to be a CNN reporter. HUD scandal. In the late 1980s, Manafort was criticized for using his connections at HUD to ensure funding for a $43 million rehabilitation of dilapidated housing in Seabrook, New Jersey. Manafort's firm received a $326,000 fee for its work in getting HUD approval of the grant, largely through personal influence with Deborah Gordine, an executive assistant to former HUD Secretary Samuel R. Pierce Jr. Lobbying for Viktor Yanukovych and involvements in Ukraine. Manafort also worked as an advisor on the Ukrainian presidential campaign of Viktor Yanukovych from December 2004 until the February 2010 Ukrainian presidential election, even as the U.S. government opposed Yanukovych because of his ties to Russia's leader Vladimir Putin. Manafort was hired to advise Yanukovych months after massive street demonstrations known as the Orange Revolution overturned Yanukovych's victory in the 2004 presidential race. Boris Kolesnikov, Yanukovych's campaign manager, said the party hired Manafort after identifying organizational and other problems in the 2004 elections, in which it was advised by Russian strategists. Manafort rebuffed U.S. Ambassador William Taylor when the latter complained he was undermining U.S. interests in Ukraine. According to a 2008 U.S. Justice Department annual report, Manafort's company received $63,750 from Yanukovych's Party of Regions over a 6-month period ending on March 31, 2008, for consulting services. In 2010, under Manafort's tutelage, the opposition leader put the Orange Revolution on trial, campaigning against its leader's management of a weak economy. Returns from the presidential election gave Yanukovych a narrow win over Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko, a leader of the 2004 demonstrations. Yanukovych owed his comeback in Ukraine's presidential election to a drastic makeover of his political persona, and people in his party say that makeover was engineered in part by his American consultant, Manafort. In 2007 and 2008, Manafort was involved in investment projects with Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska and Ukrainian oligarch Dmytro Firtash. The Associated Press has reported that Manafort negotiated a $10 million annual contract with Deripaska to promote Russian interests in politics, business, and media coverage in Europe and the United States, starting in 2005. In 2013, Yanukovych became the main target of the Euromaidan protests. After the February 2014 Ukrainian revolution, Yanukovych fled to Russia. On March 17, 2014, the day after the Crimean status referendum, Yanukovych became one of the first 11 persons who were placed under executive sanctions on the specially designated nationals list by President Obama, freezing his assets in the U.S. and banning him from entering the United States. Manafort then returned to Ukraine in September 2014 to become an advisor to Yanukovych's former head of the presidential administration of Ukraine, Serhiy Lavochkin. In this role, he was asked to assist in rebranding Yanukovych's Party of Regions. Instead, he argued to help stabilize Ukraine. Manafort was instrumental in creating a new political party called Opposition Bloc. According to Ukrainian political analyst Mikhail Pokhabinsky, he thought to gather the largest number of people opposed to the current government, you needed to avoid anything concrete and just become a symbol of being opposed. According to Manafort, he has not worked in Ukraine since the October 2014 Ukrainian parliamentary election. However, according to Ukrainian border control entry data, Manafort traveled to Ukraine several times after that election, all the way through late 2015. According to the New York Times, his local office in Ukraine closed in May 2016. According to Politico, by then Opposition Bloc had already stopped payments for Manafort and this local office. In an April 2016 interview with ABC News, Manafort stated that the aim of his activities in Ukraine had been to lead the country closer to Europe. Ukrainian government National Anti-Corruption Bureau studying secret documents claimed in August 2016 to have found handwritten records that showed $12.7 million in cash payments designated for Manafort, although they had yet to determine if he had received the money. These undisclosed payments were from the pro-Russian political Party of Regions of the former president of Ukraine. This payment record spans from 2007 to 2012. Manafort's lawyer, Richard A. Hibby, said Manafort didn't receive any such cash payments as described by the anti-corruption officials. The Associated Press reported on August 17, 2016 that Manafort secretly routed at least $2.2 million in payments to two prominent Washington lobbying firms in 2012 on Party of Regions' behalf, and did so in a way that effectively obscured the foreign political party's efforts to influence U.S. policy. Associated Press noted that under federal law, U.S. lobbyists must declare publicly if they represent foreign leaders or their political parties, and provide detailed reports about their actions to the Justice Department, which Manafort reportedly did not do. The lobbying firms unsuccessfully lobbied U.S. Congress to reject a resolution condemning the jailing of Yanukovych's main political rival, Yulia Tymoshenko. Financial records certified in December 2015 and filed by Manafort in Cyprus showed him to be approximately $17 million in debt to interests connected to interests favorable to Putin and Yanukovych in the months before joining the Trump presidential campaign in March. These included a $7.8 million debt to Augusta Management Limited, a company connected to Russian oligarch and close Putin associate Oleg Deripaska. This accords with a 2015 court complaint filed by Deripaska claiming that Manafort and his partners owed him $19 million in relation to a failed Ukrainian cable television business. An additional $9.9 million debt was owed to a Cyprus company that tied through shell companies to Ivan Fursin, a Ukrainian member of parliament of the Party of Regions. Manafort spokesman Jason Maloney maintained in response that Manafort is not indebted to Mr. Deripaska or the Party of Regions, nor was he, at the time he began working for the Trump campaign. During the 2016 presidential campaign, Manafort, via Kiev-based operative Konstantin Kilimnik, offered to provide briefings on political developments to Deripaska, though there is no evidence that the briefings took place. According to alleged leaked text messages between his daughters, Manafort was also one of the proponents of violent removal of the Euromaidan protesters, which resulted in police shooting dozens of people during 2014 Rashevsko street riots. In one of the messages, his daughter writes that his strategy that was to cause that to send those people out and get them slaughtered. Manafort has rejected questions about whether Russian-Ukrainian operative Konstantin Kilimnik, with whom he consulted regularly, might be in league with Russian intelligence. According to Yuri Shvets, Kilimnik previously worked for the GRU, and every bit of information about his work with Paul Manafort went directly to Russian intelligence. Registering as a foreign agent. Lobbying for foreign countries requires registration with the Justice Department under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Manafort did not do so at the time of his lobbying. In April 2017, a Manafort spokesman said Manafort was planning to file the required paperwork. However, according to Associated Press reporters, as of June 2, 2017, Manafort had not yet registered. On June 27 he filed to be retroactively registered as a foreign agent. Among other things, he disclosed that he made more than $17 million between 2012 and 2014 working for a pro-Russian political party in Ukraine. Brought to you by Wikividi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?